especially my Muslim friends, they would say, oh, you're going through all these trials because Allah loves you and He wants you to be closer to Him, and and I understood that as a fact, but I didn't feel it in my heart.
What you seem to say is that there seems to be harm, like actual harm happening in the NHS towards patients.
I'm currently the chairperson for the NHS England Sickle Cell Patient Advisory Group, because I do firmly believe that even though to create change, to create the change that you want to see, you have to be a part of it. God created all of us to serve Him, and we serve Him in lots of different ways. That's not to say that all we do is sit down and pray and worship and not do anything else. No, that's not. You can serve Him through your job. You can serve Him through this conversation we're having now. You can serve Him through raising your children. You can.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to the Concept Clinic. Today, we're doing something completely different. We have a different structure today. Instead of me yapping, I'm going to let someone else talk. I'm going to ask someone else some questions, and we're going to learn from a first-hand experience what living with sickle cell is. We've learned the molecular side. We've learned how it affects people, but now I want to know how it affects someone living with it day to day. So, Assalamu alaikum, sister. Please introduce yourself. Tell us something about you.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Sadeh Sophia. I am actually a revert Muslim of 15 years now, alhamdulillah. I, like I said, I have sickle cell anemia, HBSS. I am a pharmacist with a first-class master's with honours. And I'm currently off work, figuring out life and figuring out what I want to do for my next step. So yeah, that's a bit about me. And my favorite color is orange.
Oh, that's nice. Mine's red. If we're putting it out there,
we're
mine's
in the
red.
family. That's good.
Okay, so your name's Sadeh, did you say?
Yeah.
So, like, are you Nigerian or are you a mix?
No.
Okay.
Everyone thinks I'm Nigerian.
Yeah, because that sounds very Nigerian.
I know. No, I am Jamaican. Both my parents are Jamaican.
Okay.
My grandmother named me Sadeh because she loved Sadeh the singer, who was British Nigerian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I got the name Sadeh. But you never know. My enslaved ancestors that were probably kidnapped from Nigeria or Ghana or somewhere.
Never know.
So
know.
I probably do have a mixture somewhere.
Okay. So you were born in Jamaica, or did you move here from Jamaica?
No, I was born in Britain.
Okay.
So I am the first generation to be born in Britain.
Okay. So what was your childhood like? Talk us through how that was like.
So okay, I might as well start from the beginning, being as this is Gene Gems. So my parents are both Jamaican, like I said, and they both married here in Britain, and neither of them knew that they had the sickle cell trait. Okay. So obviously they were born in Jamaica, they grew up in Jamaica, and at that time there wasn't testing for sickle cell trait or anything. So they didn't know that they had the sickle cell trait. And then when my mum fell pregnant with me and gave birth to me in the UK at that point, the UK were doing the heel prick test for all the babies. Yeah. And in that heel prick test, they test for lots of genetic conditions, including sickle cell. So that's how and when they found out that I had sickle cell anemia. And that's when they also found out that they both had the trait as well. Okay. So my childhood, my mum said that my first crisis was at 18 months old. That's the first time I had a really severe crisis, which she was able to detect from just me crying and not being my usual self, I guess, as a baby, and swelling in my hands and feet, which is really common for babies and children with sickle cell. And then after that point, after 18 months, I was in hospital at least 2 to 3 times a year. I had pneumonia a few times. And I had a really bad intensive care admission. But then once I started primary school, things kind of calmed down sickle cell wise. In terms of, I'd probably go to hospital twice a year for like bad admission. That was up until about year 3. And then after that, I used to go to hospital a lot more with extreme pain episodes, and my blood levels, my hemoglobin would drop quite low. So I'd have to have a lot of blood transfusions. And yeah, so it was an abnormal childhood in the sense that I spent a lot of time at the hospital. And I don't think you realize as a child that that's not normal.
Normal, yeah.
Like, because there's other children at the hospital, it's a children's hospital, you go, like, you just think that, oh, it's just normal that you go to the hospital. You know that it's not normal for everyone, because I had a sibling, my brother, he was 18 months younger than me, and he carries the trait. So with the same mum and dad, but he has the trait, and he didn't have to, have needles or blood transfusions, or he didn't have to take medicines every day. So I knew that I was different to him in a sense, but he also came with me to the hospital for appointments, or when I had to stay over, he would have to come as well, and my mum would come. So, yeah, I don't know. I think as children, you're very resilient. So I don't really feel like I internalized anything, as something was wrong. I think the first time I really became aware of the negative side of sickle cell and living with it was when I was in year 6, and I really wanted to go on a residential trip. Like in the UK, we have these residential trips where you would go and do activities and things. And I was never allowed to go on any trips. Mum would say no, because she'd worry that I'd get sick. And then I was like, please, I'm in year 6. It's my last one. I really want to go. So she said yes. We looked at me. We were going to Wales. And we got there and it was great. I was having a great time. And we went on a waterfall climb, and my foot got wet in the waterfall. And I remember saying to the teacher, oh, I need to stop. I need to get the water out of my shoe because I'll get sick. Yeah. And the teacher was just like, what are you talking about? Like, come on, like, we need to get back to the bus, like the minibus. So I wasn't allowed to stop. So I got back to the minibus, and I actually tipped the water out on the minibus. And then once we got back to where we were staying, my ankle just was in extreme pain and it swelled up and I couldn't walk. But I was really scared to tell the teachers because I didn't want to go to like a Welsh hospital. I just was like, what's going to happen to me? So I didn't tell them for a while, but then my friends that I was sharing the dorm with, they were like, no, we have to tell, because by this point I was screaming and crying in the dorm. So they told them. And then I remember the teachers called my mum, who also was unhappy at this point because she told me not to go. You know, when they tell you and you just do something different. And she said, I'll give her Calpol, see if it works. It didn't work. And then the teacher's like, we'll have to call a doctor. So they called a doctor, but then the doctor came and he literally looked at my foot and he was like, there's nothing wrong with her. Her foot's not broken. There's no sprain. I don't understand why she's in this much pain. Like, there's nothing wrong with her. So then I just remember thinking, like, what do you mean? Like, I have a condition. My mum filled out the form. Like, I know that this is sickle pain, but when a doctor's like, they're a medical professional and the teachers are going to listen to them, they're not going to listen to a 12-year-old. So I remember feeling like a bit isolated. That was the first time I really felt isolated in that moment and like really scared. And I kind of had an understanding that, okay, people are not taking my condition seriously because they can't see it or because there's no understanding. And in the end, what happened was I was just had to like sit for the next day, the whole day. And then we came back the day after that and I was on the coach, I was crying, but I was trying to like stifle like the pain and the cries because obviously I'm with my friends and stuff. And then once we got back to school, there was already an ambulance waiting for me. And then I was blue lighted to hospital and I was in hospital for 8 weeks after that. And then my class like sent cards and the teachers had to like do this big apology and then they had to do some training and things like that. So I think that's the time that it really opened my eyes that how hidden sickle cell was at that point, because on the outside you can't see anything. That's my most like significant memory of sickle cell as a child. But overall, I think I had a really good childhood. My mum, she was very cautious, but she did let me do certain things. Like I was allowed to go swimming. A lot of my friends with sickle cell, they weren't allowed to go swimming. I was allowed to go swimming, but it was strict that I had to come out the water at 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Again, there was a time when I didn't listen to that advice. And yeah, once again, I ended up in hospital. So we have this saying in the Caribbean, then those that can't hear must feel. So my mum used to tell me that a lot. If you're not going to hear, then you're going to feel it. So yeah, I used to be able to swim. I did dance lessons. I did a lot of sport, but I was really strict with making sure I had good water intake. And I was really blessed in the sense that I had a really strong sickle cell community around me from a very young age. So there was a sickle cell charity where I used to live. And every summer, every half term, we did trips away, workshops like that taught us about our condition, how to tell people what our condition is, how to explain it to people, for us to feel confident and not to feel like we're different because we have a health condition, to talk about the stigmas of it, what could happen growing up. Yeah, I was quite confident in knowing what sickle cell was, how it affected me, and how I needed to explain that to other people. And it also gave me a lot of confidence in it doesn't have to stop me doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And achieving certain things. So for me, and that is really like unheard of, especially for that time in the 90s. Not many people with sickle cell had that kind of support around them, but I knew a lot of other people with sickle cell, boys and girls. So I never really felt different to anyone. And I did really well at school. I did miss a lot of schooling.
Yeah.
But I did very well at school, alhamdulillah. My mum made sure to give me extra tuition if I needed it.
Yeah.
And even when I used to be at the children's hospital, I used to get sent to the children's hospital school, which was like really cool. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm talking about it too positively because it was hard. But as a child, I just don't feel like you feel the hard. I think your parents feel it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I say for me, things felt harder as I grew up, but as a childhood, I feel like I had a good, well-rounded childhood.
How did your feelings towards your parents, them not knowing, did that make you feel any sort of way towards them, whether positive or negative? Especially as you grew older. I know as a child, you probably didn't have those thoughts, but as you grew older, did you have any of those thoughts?
I think because, like I said, I had an understanding of how you inherit sickle cell from a young age. Maybe not like the full genetic breakdown like you do, but as a young age, I understood that you had to have some inherit one from your parent and things like that. I don't think I had any feelings towards them in terms of like good or bad or guilt or blame or anything like that as a child. As I grew older and, like I said, knowing other people that had sickle cell and how their sickle cell came about, I kind of felt grateful in a way that I knew that both my parents didn't know. Because it felt to me like, well, there's nothing they could have done. Like, I can't place any blame because they didn't know. And I grew up Christian, and I remember I used to kind of have this reasoning for why I had sickle cell. I used to say, oh, I have it so that a child in a more unfortunate place or country that has sickle cell, they won't have sickle cell, or if they do have it, it won't be as bad because I have access to medicine or whatever. Like, I used to kind of have this notion that that's why God gave it to me.
Do you still think that now?
No. Now I think, because I'm Muslim now, alhamdulillah, I know that God has given it to me as a test and as a way for me to remain close to him. And that was actually proven to me so like vividly a couple of years ago, which I'll go into. But yeah, as a Muslim now, I know it's a test, and I know it's not for me to, but it's not like I'm carrying a burden on the cross. Whereas in Christianity, that's kind of the thinking that I had, like the same way that Jesus stuff like carried this washed everyone's sins away.
Yeah.
Maybe that's similar to why I have to have this condition. So yeah, towards my parents, I never felt angry or upset that I got sickle cell from them.
Yeah.
My father, I remember being told that he was very adamant that it wasn't because of him that I had sickle cell, that he doesn't have the trait, and he didn't even want to get tested to see if he had the trait or not, which obviously he does. He was very adamant that it's not his fault. And he kind of saw it in a negative way, but that never really bothered me growing up because I never grew up with him. So yeah. I felt lucky that they didn't know. I think I do know people where their parents do know, and they've had multiple children with sickle cell, knowing that they do have the trait, and they have lots of children with the condition. I think when I look at that situation, it makes me sad. And I think if I was the child in that situation, I would feel anger, and I would feel sad that they chose that outcome for me, because and this is why I'm such an advocate for genetic testing when people want to go on and have children, because I'm like, we do everything else. Like, you prepare for children. Well, a lot of people prepare for children. You know, they might eat healthy and stop smoking. So why aren't we doing genetic testing?
All that stuff. Yeah.
To prevent a condition that is just preventable by knowing what your genetic status is. And I do know people that two of them both know that they have actual sickle cell, and they decided to have a child. Yeah. And they made that a conscious decision. And I've always struggled with that. Their reasoning was, well, I've gone through it and it's made me a stronger person, and at least I can relate to my child. And I understand all those reasons, and I'm not saying that they're not valid, but sickle cell affects every person so differently. You don't know how your child is going to be with that condition. And I just think that God has given us science and the ability to test for these things for a reason. Like, in Islam, we know that we tie our camel, and then after that, we leave everything to Allah. So part of tying our camel is preventing the things that we can.
Exactly.
So, I'm glad that my parents were not in that position, because I think I would struggle with a lot of those negative feelings.
Yeah. So knowing that obviously you have a brother without sickle cell, what has that been like? Has he been very like does he question it? Does he ask you a lot of questions, especially when you were younger? How was that relationship like?
So we're close in age. Like I said, we're only 18 months apart. And everywhere I went, he went. So all of the sickle cell workshops, the trips away, he would always be there as well. If he wasn't at school, he'd be at my appointments with me. So he always had an awareness that something was wrong with me, and he also knew what sickle cell was. So I feel like when we were younger, it didn't really affect us too much. I think it was more in the sense of sometimes him understanding that it's not that I'm getting extra attention because my mom wants to give me extra attention. It's because I'm unwell. Or, for example, there was a time we were both at school and I had a hospital appointment. So my mom came to pick me up to take me to the hospital appointment, but she left him in school because it's school. And he just felt like, I'm getting taken out to get a treat and it's not fair. And so at a young age, I think those were the biggest kind of problems for us as siblings or for us as a family to navigate. But at the same time, he was also very protective. So he would also make sure that I've got a jacket on, or if somebody was trying to make me do something I didn't want to do, he would, try his best to explain. So I feel like it gave us a bit of extra closeness, in a sense. As we've grown up, I think it's harder in some sense because as you get older and you're in vulnerable positions and you're unwell, or when I have a really bad crisis, I might not be able to walk or feed myself or dress myself, and it's hard for anybody that you love, but particularly a sibling, and he's my brother as well, to kind of see his sister in that position.
Yeah.
And it's hard to talk about, I think, the emotional and mental side of it more so. And society also inflicts our belief systems and challenges what we know. And we live in a society where disabilities are not really supported, especially hidden disabilities. Even comments from family and friends that they know that I'm unwell, but they'll say things like, "Oh, but you look so well. Why are you in hospital again? Oh, you just came out. Oh, you're in here, but I can't see what's wrong with you." Those subconsciously do build up over time. And I do think that it does impact sometimes on what I think my brother's thinking and what my brother thinks that I'm thinking. I carry a lot of guilt as well, because I do feel like he missed out on parts of his childhood because of me becoming unwell. Because like we were a single parent family, so my mum can only go so much ways.
Yeah.
So I do carry a lot of guilt for that. And I don't know if he also feels like that. It's not a conversation that we've explored, but I do think that there's a much bigger mental and emotional impact, and it has affected the dynamics of our family and our sibling relationship. Even though I'm the oldest, people always see him as the oldest because he's been able to maybe achieve more outwardly, or because he's the one that will be carrying me or pushing me around in the wheelchair or taking me to hospital or doing the shopping for me. Or whereas if I didn't have sickle cell, maybe it wouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
You talked about you being in the experience you had in primary school that made you understand. Did you have anything like that in secondary school? Because I know secondary school is like when you're really building yourself, when you're understanding yourself, when you're becoming an adult, essentially. So did you have any experiences where you had to maybe explain to people what was going on, friends, teachers, anything like that happen in secondary school?
Yeah. Secondary school, I feel like that's when I came into my own, like you said. That's when you kind of taking charge of your own life a lot more.
Yeah.
So because of my sickle cell, I had delayed puberty, and I also had delayed growth in some of the bones in my ears. So I had to wear 2 hearing aids because I couldn't hear.
Yeah.
So because of that, I had like extra support when it came to exams, for example. I needed to have extra time. Also, because of my sickle cell, I used to have to be in a warmer room because the sports hall is really cold.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit there and do exams in there. So I was separated away from my classmates. And there used to be a lot of questions like, where are you? Did you miss the exam? Why are you getting like special treatment? There was an incident in PE where you have to do something in the UK called cross country, where you have to run through the woods. I was like, why you have to run through it anyway? And I remember I did it once because I didn't want to feel like, I didn't want to seem like different. I did it once and I was sick in hospital after that. Again, there's those that don't hear must feel, that's another example. I was sick in hospital, and after that I never did it again. But my teachers were not, the PE teachers, it's like they were not understanding, because I used to do a lot of other sport. I did netball, I did gymnastics, I did trampolining. They were like, no, you are going to do it. You can't not do it because you don't like it. And I'm trying to explain it's not because I don't like it. Like, because of my sickle cell, that particular sport is outside, it's in the woods, it's wet, it's muddy. That triggers my sickle cell. I had to do a lot of self-advocating. And a few of my friends had been with me at primary school, so they kind of had an awareness, and I'd had sleepovers with them. So they would also say, yes, miss, she's like telling the truth, or yeah, she does have this condition.
Yeah.
So I feel like in high school, my sickle cell didn't affect me as much because I was very confident and I had a good group of people around me to ensure that I put the right boundaries in place, that the teachers were aware. I had like an educational health plan. So they were aware that I had sickle cell, which extra needs I needed. And also, for reasons we're not sure of yet, which is why we need more research in this condition, my sickle cell kind of went into a period of, I don't want to like remission. So for those 5 years of high school, I only had one really severe hospital admission. And I might have just had a few days off at home unwell. But I didn't miss a lot of my high schooling. Like the most I would have missed was because I had hospital appointments to attend, but not because of inpatient admissions. So I was really well during that period of time. So a lot of my problems or issues that arose because of my sickle cell would have been because of me needing to self-advocate in certain situations.
When did you find Islam? Like, how did that come about? You said it's been 15 years. Like, what was that like?
Subhanallah. So from the age of 8, I remember I told you about the sickle cell group that we used to be a part of as a child. So we had a workshop where they were asking us, oh, what do we want to be when we're older? And I remember that in that session, I said I wanted to be a pharmacist. That came about because I used to have to take daily medication as a child. So somebody with sickle cell, you have to take a penicillin because we don't have a functioning spleen, and folic acid to help with the blood cells. And I always used to think, how is this little medicine helping me? Like I couldn't like fathom that it was doing something to my body. And I remember asking the pharmacist once when we went to pick up my prescription, and he told me what his job was, and it just got stuck in my head that, okay, I want to be a pharmacist. So at age of 8, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And literally from high school up until now, all my experience was in a pharmacy. So my first work experience was in a pharmacy. And then at age 15, after I'd sat my GCSEs and we were leaving, so I was turning 15, 16, I got my first job in Asda, and they put me in the pharmacy department because in the interview I talked about pharmacy. So I worked in Asda pharmacy, and a lot of the pharmacists were Muslim, but it didn't really register to me. I said that I grew up Christian, so when I was 13, I didn't believe that Christianity was for me anymore. Like I believed that God was real and that there was a God. I just didn't believe that Christianity was the right way, and that was because at that time, while I was at church, actually, 3 questions popped into my head, and I asked our vicar. I asked him the questions. So they were, why is there different versions of the Bible? Can he explain the Trinity? And if Jesus died for everybody's sins, then why aren't we accountable for our own sins? So I asked him to explain those, which he did. But after he gave me his answers, I just was like, this doesn't make logical sense to me anymore. So I'm going to just believe in God and be a good person and just carry on like that. And then, like I said, I used to work in Asda, and there was one year where it really snowed heavy and I couldn't get home. And one of the pharmacists, she said I should come and stay with her. She lived locally. She said, come and stay with me and you can go home the next day. So I went to her house. She is a Pakistani Muslim, and she was married to a Kenyan Muslim brother. And they had 2 young children. And in the morning, we were eating breakfast. And before we started, the 2 boys, they were 5 and 3 at the time, they both said Bismillah. So then I said to her, what does that mean? What are they saying? What does it mean? So she told me, and I just carried on. And then later that day, they all prayed the Salah together. So I was watching them. And then I was just asked her again, what were you doing? And she explained. And then over a period of 2 years, she used to bring like books in. I'd read a few of them. And then Ramadan came round twice. So I fasted the first Ramadan just to see what it was like. And then by the second, I fasted it again, and I felt closer to God. And then the more we spoke, she was saying to me that, well, you believe that there's one God, and I learned a bit more about Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And she was like, well, you're basically Muslim. If you believe in those two things, like, you're Muslim. So why don't you take your shahada? And I was like, no, I'm Jamaican. I don't know any Jamaican Muslims, and I love being Jamaican. Because I don't know, growing up then, the only Muslims I saw were Pakistani and Bangladeshi. I didn't see any other Muslim groups. So I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, I just want to be Jamaican.
Yeah.
She was like, you don't have to choose between your culture and religion. I'm literally baiting myself right now on the big internet, but it's okay. It's fine. Take it with the team. But her sister was actually married to a Jamaican brother, but they lived in Saudi. And then she told her sister, and then her sister said she knew somebody who was a Jamaican lady living in Birmingham. So that sister came to that lady's house, because after that, me and that lady became really close, and I used to babysit her children and things like that. So that sister came to the lady's house, and then we spoke. I met her, and then that night I was like, yeah, I'm ready. And then I took my shahada, alhamdulillah. So that was in October 2012, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
How has how's your religion, so Islam, how is that, I don't want to say affected, but how has that like made the path for how you maybe deal with your day-to-day life with sickle cell, or live with sickle cell?
Okay, so my religion throughout my whole life has always been a way for me to cope with my sickle cell. Yeah, full stop. Without that belief in God and belief that we have a purpose and that my life is bigger than the time that I'm on the planet, I don't think I would have coped well with my sickle cell.
Yeah.
Especially for my family as well. We're all, religious. It's when I became Muslim. So I became Muslim in university.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first year of university. And my first year of university went really well in terms of my sickle cell wise. I wasn't that unwell. Yeah. From the second year of my university, I was really, really unwell. My sickle cell just kind of took a nosedive. And we're not sure why. A lot of the doctors and the nurses, and even myself, when I reflect back, I do think it was because of the stress. Like, stress does can cause you to have a sickle cell crisis, which is the painful episode. So I do think it was the stress of university, and I'm quite an all or nothing person. Like, if I'm going to do it, I have to be the best. I'm not taking a gap year, XYZ. And I was also still working, social life, everything.
Yeah.
So my second year of university, when it's actually crazy, we had a workshop where we had to make a nappy rash cream. So we made this nappy rash cream, and because we'd all done it and we'd passed, we said we were going to go and celebrate. So we went out, and again, Sadeh wants to be fitting in and not listening and wants to look nice. Didn't wear a jacket in the middle of winter. So I didn't wear the jacket. Had a great time. On the way home, I was actually driving and I had like a sharp pain in this elbow, and I couldn't move my arm, and I couldn't change gears. And my friend, who I had to drop her home first, she was like, are you okay? Because the car kind of like jerked. She was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Managed to get her home. And I just had to drive all the way to my house in third gear. Like, I don't know, God delivered me. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Got home, parked up on that drive, and I couldn't even make it in the house. I called my mum from the car, and I was like, Mum, I'm having a really bad crisis. It was in my arm. And I remember I couldn't even get into the house. The ambulance came really quick, and I was taken to hospital. And once I got to hospital, I was admitted for 2 weeks with pneumonia. That had also caused the crisis to be really bad as well.
Yeah.
Treated for that, and I was actually being discharged home, and I was waiting for my medication to go home, and a physio was just walking past, and she said to me, are you okay? I said, yeah. And she was like, you don't look like you're breathing right. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm going home. Like, I'm fine. I've been discharged.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, just like for me, just let me take your oxygen level. She did, and it was really low. So she put oxygen on me. And all I remember is them pulling the alarm. And I just remember lights. And that was it. And I was taken to intensive care. And I spent the next 4 weeks sedated in intensive care because the sickling had got so bad, it had actually sickled in my lungs, like the small
Gosh.
vessels in your lungs where your alveoli are. So it had
Yeah.
caused both my lungs to collapse. And I was in intensive care for 4 weeks. I was told my family were told that I wasn't going to survive. The whole family had to come in and say their goodbyes. And I was in like this breathing chamber, like I think it's kind of like the modern day CPAP machine thing. I was in like this breathing thing to force air into my lungs. That was when I came round. I remember that. And they had to do this procedure where they had to take out my blood and replace all of my blood because it had all sickled in, replace it with like healthy blood. But there
Yeah.
wasn't a machine that could do this at that time. So they had to like do it manually. And I had to learn how to walk again, eat again, everything. So after I left intensive care, after that 4 weeks, I was then on the ward for another 8 weeks. So that was like a 3-month hospital admission. And yeah, like I said, I had to learn how to do everything again. So this happened while I was in my second year of university. So I was away from university. Nobody knew where I was or what had happened, apart from the few core friends I'd made. And because of that, obviously, I fell behind. And that experience of my sickle cell kind of set the tone for the rest of the years prior, even up until this day. Every single year after that, I had an admission in intensive care. My lungs would recollapse. I had those three admissions happen. That admission type where I was told I wasn't going to survive happened 3 times, three consecutive years. So it was a really tough time with my sickle cell at that point. And I still pushed through, literally by Allah's mercy and grace. I don't know how. I pushed through. I didn't take a gap year, and I sat all my exams. I did crazy stuff, like I would discharge myself, go sit my exam, go back to the hospital, or like the doctors would say, okay, fine, we'll hold, like you can go for an hour and then come back. And I did like crazy things to try and get these exams done. I used to study in hospital, do my coursework. It was a lot, but I managed to do it, and I did get my master's. And I went on to work full time for the NHS as a pharmacist in the hospital, alhamdulillah, and I really enjoyed it. But I was still battling with being in and out of hospital multiple times a year. I was on a really intense treatment program where I had to go to London every 4 weeks to have my blood removed and put back in, and that's called a red cell exchange procedure. At this point, it was done on a machine. And throughout this, I feel like my Islam, it kept me going because I just felt like, it's God's plan, and thank God I'm still here. Like the doctor said I wasn't going to make it, and I'm still here. So those things kept me connected to my religion. But I think because I was so focused on just trying to survive physically and also still trying to achieve this level of success that I had placed on myself. And I think that you kind of like, as the firstborn daughter of like a family that's come to the UK, you kind of have these expectations. The first to go to uni, you really want to do well, and your friends are doing well as well. So I spent so much time focusing on that version of success that my religion didn't really move anywhere. Like I'd become Muslim, I had a great Muslim support network. I had that belief, but I wouldn't say I was practicing it. I wasn't making the time to really practice it. And what happened was, so this obviously my health deteriorated over a period of 7-8 years, and I ended up having to leave the NHS because I had a really bad crisis again. Again, I was in intensive care. I was septic. I had to have a lot of central lines placed into me to give me intravenous medication and to give me regular blood transfusions. And they would get infected and cause a lot of issues. So I had to leave my job, and that vision of success kind of crumbled outwardly. And people would say things to me like, oh, I don't know how you do it. Like, you do it, like, you're sick, but you've achieved so much. Oh, you do have this like condition, but you've done so well. So in your head, it's like people see that you're sick, but they're giving you the grace that you're still achieving. So it's okay that you're sick if you're achieving. That's kind of like what it was created to in my head.
Yeah.
So because then I had to start working, and it was like, oh my gosh, I'm just sick now. It's like you can see the respect for myself when I just felt like I wasn't achieving anything. I didn't have any purpose. Like, I just felt like nothing. My mental health really, really suffered. I was very much like, why me? I can't keep doing this. Like, I keep having all these near-death experiences. Why can't I just like, why do I keep coming back? Like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. Then you feel guilty for letting everybody down because you're not working, you're just at home. And yeah, like the vision of success that I had at that point was very much what the world tells you was successful. And because I'd lost that, I lost who I was.
Yeah.
And it was funny, actually. I went to London to go and visit that same lady that introduced me to Islam and her children. And I was mentally not in a good place. And her daughter said to me, oh, Masi Sadeh, you know that Allah really loves you. And I just looked at her and I was just like, yeah, okay. Because people would say that to me, like, especially my Muslim friends, they would say, oh, you're going through all these trials because Allah loves you and he wants you to be closer to him. And, and I understood that as a fact, but I didn't feel it in my heart. I don't think I truly believed it in my heart. And so she said this to me, the little girl. And I don't know, something in my head just said, you know what? What is my purpose in life? Like, I'm sitting here and I say that I believe in God. So what has God said? Why he's placed me here and put me in this condition? And I remember I left from visiting their house and I came home and I opened the Quran, and with just the purpose of figuring out why am I here?
Yeah.
Why has God created us? And I came across the verse where God says the reason he created us is to worship him alone.
Yeah.
Like, the reason he's created us as human is literally just to submit to him and worship him. And I stopped reading after that point, and I just sat there and I said, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to forget everything else, and I'm just going to worship God in the way that I should. So I started praying my 5 daily prayers, which gave me structure, because at this point I just was like, well, there's no point me getting out of bed, because I'm getting out of bed to do what? Go back to hospital. Like, I'd literally be home, hospital. So I started praying my 5 daily prayers that gave me structure to my day. And then gradually from there, I then built up to reading more of the Quran, reading more about the prophets and their stories. And I really connected with Prophet Ayub, peace be upon him, his story, that's Prophet Job, and his trials with his health and how he like got through them and how he still held on to his religion. And through that, there was blessings. And, I really felt like the definition of the ayah, with hardship comes ease. It's like I could see that in my life. So I was spending a lot of time in hospital at this point. Out of 365 days, I would be in hospital probably 200 out of those days. So I was around a lot of nurses, a lot of doctors. And as you may know, the care for sickle cell isn't great. And you do encounter a lot of poor care. And that is from both doctors, nurses, healthcare assistants, porters, cleaners, like everyone, you can get poor care from them. But there was times where I was getting some good care as well. And there were periods where, because I was like still trying to pray my salah while I was in hospital, some of the nurses would say to me, "Oh, what are you doing?" Or, "I didn't know you were Muslim," and we'd have a conversation about it. Or one nurse, like, she'd just come in and be like, "Oh, I made this for you. Like, I made dinner and I know that you love paratha, so I bought you some." Or, "Oh, you've been in here for such a long time. Do you want me to bring you like your favorite drink?" Because it was COVID, like COVID happened, so visitors couldn't come in. And I just remember thinking, like, I'm in this position where I'm in hospital and I'm going through this hardship with my sickle cell.
Yeah.
But look at the ease that is being sent to me. Like,
Yeah.
I could be getting poor care, but today I got really good care, or I got my favorite nurse, or just because I did my prayer, like, somebody's now asked me about Islam and who knows where that will go. Or so I do think, well, I know that in the last, especially the last 5 years, my iman has grown and my faith has grown, because it's the only thing that kind of saved my mental health in the right way. Like, I did have counseling during these periods, but it wasn't connecting with like the soul, if that makes sense. Like, it wasn't. The Quran and Islam is a religion for everything: the mind, body, and soul. And I think sometimes other things that we do, like, I don't know, Pilates or Western counseling or whatever it might be, self-care, those connect with different parts of us. But to connect to the soul, is the only thing that can do that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the one creator. And in the times when you feel like you don't have anything, like, I don't even have my health. There was times where I couldn't even breathe. Like, I was on a ventilator. I couldn't even feed myself. I couldn't wash myself. I couldn't do anything. And in those moments, like, not even your family can help you. They wish they could, but they can't. So when you're in that room and it's just you kind of realize that only Allah, like, only the creator is there with you 24/7. It's him that is keeping my heart beating against all the odds. It's him that makes me come back from that physical pain, the mental pain. It's him that is still providing. He's still providing me some level of care. And while I was in uni, the hospital that I was under, the care that I was getting there was really, really bad. It was really bad. I even had to make a police statement against a nurse for how she was treating me, and she threatening me physically. And I felt there was a consultant that I really felt like she just wanted to do harm to me. And it became a place where I was so terrified to go there, but I had to go there. It was like, I remember describing it to my friend as an abusive relationship. Like, you know that you need to get out of it, but I actually couldn't get out of it because I needed their care. Like, I needed that medication. But at the same time, I was terrified of the people that were giving it to me. I didn't trust them. My mum was scared every time I would go, is something going to happen to me? And I made I complained. I made lots of pals complaints. Remember, I used to be a healthcare worker. I worked in that hospital. So there was one sense where I was thinking, all these bad things are happening to me, even though I have a lot of connections. And alhamdulillah, I feel like I survived that because of the connections that I had in the hospital, because there were doctors and nurses that knew me. So they would kind of look out for me or try their best to help me. But other patients didn't have that. And I saw a lot of people pass away as well in front of me. And I just thought, I have to try and do what I can. And I complained and nothing happened. So I said, you know what, I'm moving my care. So I moved my care to another hospital. And I had been to that hospital before because when I was at university, I was in a lecture and I became unwell. And because that hospital was closer to the university, I'd ended up at that hospital. And I'm not saying that hospital is perfect, but overall, the care from everybody, not just the specialist nurses, was a lot better. And I felt a lot safer. But for me to move to the hospital, it meant that my family would have an extra burden. They would have to physically take me to the hospital because the ambulance wouldn't take me there because it's further away from where I live. And I remember thinking, you know what, Alhamdulillah, like that in this hardship, I have the ease of a family that is willing to take me to the hospital. And I have the ease that I can even pay for an Uber or a taxi to take me to the hospital to get better care. That I have the knowledge to be able to say, I don't have to stay at this hospital. I can go somewhere else. Like, alhamdulillah, like for those. Yeah. So sickle cell has really helped my faith grow to round it off. The hardships that I've gone through have made my iman a lot stronger. And I'm not saying that I still don't have those days where I think, why me? Or it's too much, or it's too hard. Like, I do still have those days, but they're a lot shorter. And I tend to give myself, I'm like, okay, Sadeh, give yourself 3 days to wallow in self-pity. And then after that, pick yourself up, reconnect with the stories that brought you back. Read the Prophet's stories, peace upon them, and see the struggles that they went through, and look for the tools that Allah has given us in both the Seerah and in Quran, and look at the beauty. Like, me being more grateful has also helped me keep connected as well. Even now, like, I'm grateful that I live at home still in my 30s, because I get to spend more time with my mom. Alhamdulillah, like, I just have to look at these things and hold on to them a lot more. And through that, it helps on the harder days. But yeah, I don't know how people that don't have religion, how they get through the hard times, because it is really difficult. It's really hard, and everything in this world is temporary. When I say everything in this world is temporary. And I think a lot of us forget that. And I think in one sense, I am grateful for, and I always say it to my friends, like, I'm so grateful that I've had this condition for my whole life. And I've seen people die at every single age. I've seen people die with my own 2 eyes. I've been there. I've held people's hands when they've died. I've seen when the patient's families come in and they're shattered and they break down. Having to see that from such a young age up until now it's not normal, but it gives me that daily reminder that my life is not forever. It's kind of, and I'm not scared of death in the sense of, I will talk about it. I'll say, have you done your will? Have you done this? Have you done that? Like, it's on my mind to try and keep me better and closer to God. And there's a part of me that thinks maybe if I had continued on that path of worldly success and, continued in my full-time job as a pharmacist and become a band 7 and a band 8 and had my own clinic, who knows, maybe I would have become further and further away from my religion. Just remembering that one thing, that God created all of us to serve him, and we serve him in lots of different ways. That's not to say that all we do is sit down and pray and worship and not do anything else. No, that's not. You can serve him through your job. You can serve him through this conversation we're having now. You can serve him through raising your children. You can still have aspirations and goals, but just remember to keep him as first and foremost, because he's the only permanent thing. Your parents, your children, your friends, your job, none of that is permanent, and it can all go. So I do feel blessed that I've had to go through that struggle now. Now I feel like it's a blessing, alhamdulillah. When I was going through it, I probably would have annoyed myself if I heard this conversation, but like, you don't know.
So you obviously briefly mentioned your experience with the NHS. When I think about the NHS in terms of sickle cell and what little experience I've had with the whole sickle cell situation, and just in general, I can see a lack of knowledge. What I thought was just a lack of knowledge, maybe a lack of training. But what you seem to say is that there seems to be harm, like actual harm happening in the NHS towards patients, whether that be purposefully or like not knowing it, or do you get what I mean? Like, there seems to be harm actually happening. So can you like expand on that a bit more, just for people to actually know what's really happening behind closed doors?
Yeah. So I'll start off by saying that I have done a lot of work with the NHS,
Yeah.
not just my contact with it as a patient, also as a professional. I'm currently the chairperson for the NHS England Sickle Cell Patient Advisory Group, because I do firmly believe that even though to create change, to create the change that you want to see, you have to be a part of it. You have to try. So it is hard being a patient as well, because you do get burnout. But I do believe that each and every one of us have a duty to try and create what we want to see, and try and. So, I just want to preface it with that. Where do I start with the NHS? As a child, when you're in paediatric care with sickle cell, even then you do have times where a lot of healthcare professionals don't understand sickle cell. And again, because it's hidden, like you can't see on an X-ray, on an ultrasound, the SAPS machine, the OBS machine is not going to show you somebody's in a crisis.
When you say they don't understand, is it that they haven't been like, because sickle cell is something we learn. I don't know if that's obviously now. I know I'm a lot younger than them, but sickle cell is something we learn all the way from secondary. So I can remember it being mentioned in secondary. So okay, this is a genetic. We might not have gone in big detail, but I can remember it being mentioned. And even now, it's one of the best examples that we use in our lectures. Sickle cell this, sickle cell that. And I don't know if that's come with time and more knowledge, but is it that they genuinely just don't understand what it is? Or is it like they know that it's a disease, but they don't understand the severity of it? Do you get what I mean? Because
it's both.
Wow.
It's both. So it's depending on what generation. Like the fact that you've just sat there and said, "Oh, you heard about sickle cell from secondary school," at least I'm thinking, "Wow, alhamdulillah." Because in my time, for example, I didn't hear about sickle cell being spoken about until I was at university in my second year lectures for pharmacology. So actually, no, that's a lot. I remember there's one sentence in the OCR textbook in A-level biology, and they spoke about it then. That's so specific. But not everybody takes A-level biology. Most nurses don't take A-level biology. So I think it's definitely both. You get some healthcare professionals that they really just don't know what sickle cell is. They've never heard of it. Even doctors, which baffles me, because I'm like, but you've been at medical school for 5 years. Whether they missed that lecture, maybe they didn't understand, I don't know, but they just don't know what it is. And I've had doctors, I've been in A&E, like, oh, I'll say, I've got sickle cell. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's a condition. I've had it my whole life. Also, when did you get it?
They ask you proudly, what's that? Like, it's not like they pretend.
They'll just say, oh, what's sickle cell? And then the follow-up question, which makes me get even more annoyed, is how long have you had it? Then I'm like, okay, you really don't know. Let's get another doctor. Because if you're asking me how long I've had this condition, that means you don't understand what genetics means. And if you don't understand that, I don't want you to treat me. But sadly, we don't always get the option. That doctor does have to treat you, and you have to explain from beginning. It's a genetic condition. It's inherited like eye color and hair color, blah, blah, blah. So some doctors and nurses, they generally don't know. Then you get some that do know. The majority, I would say, they know what sickle cell is, in terms of they've heard of the word, or they've heard of the statement, and they might say, oh, is it something to do with your blood? And you'll say yes. So they'll have that level of knowledge. But normally when you're presenting as a patient to those institutions, you're presenting because you're unwell. So you'll be in a lot of pain. And because we've dealt with pain our whole life, we're not going to present in a way where we're screaming and crying and rolling on the floor. Not all the time. Sometimes you are, but majority of the time you're not doing that. And you'll be saying, I can't move my arm. It's really painful. I need morphine. And they'll be like, well, I did an X-ray and your arm's not broken. Well, we've done a blood test and your bloods look fine, because they're trying to look like you can only see sickle cells under a microscope in a lab. So all the tests that you would normally get in A&E, your blood pressure done, your oxygen levels, those might be a bit like abnormal because you're in pain, or the oxygen isn't going around the body. So you might have a lower oxygen level than normal. But sometimes you don't yet. Sometimes it hasn't caught up. Like, for example, when I said I had that intensive care admission, I was on my way home. I outwardly had been signed off by a doctor to say that I was fine to go home. And within minutes, I was in intensive care. That's how quick sickle cell can change. And because they can't have anything tangible, like as a healthcare professional, you're trained to look at evidences. You do an x-ray, you do a blood test, you do the SATs, you do this. Yeah. You also have to take the word of the patient. And that's where the difficulty comes in, I believe, with sickle cell, because you have to take the word of a Black man, generally, even though sickle cell can affect any race, it predominantly does affect Black, African, Caribbean, or people of Asian and Mediterranean descent. So majority of us are going to be Black. Yeah. So you have to take the word of a Black man or a Black woman that is telling you that they're in 10 out of 10 pain, that they need opioids, they need strong pain relief. They don't need paracetamol. They need morphine, diamorphine maybe, oxycodone, pethidine. Those are medications that can be abused and have addictive they have addictive side effects. And we live in a society where, unfortunately, as Black people, we are still met with suspicion. Yeah. So, yes, there are good nurses and doctors, and there are nurses and doctors that are Black as well and that look like us, but they will still, in a professional manner, be thinking, how am I meant to give this opioid when I can't see anything wrong? Do I believe the patient? Should I believe them 100% that what they're telling me is true?